We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. Just got off work. It is 8 a.m., the last day of August. September's around the corner. It's a pretty chill day here. A little gloomy and stuff. I think we're supposed to get the aftermath of Hurricane Ida or something that's blowing through. Tonight was a pretty chill night at work. Ain't really got much planned today. I was going to go hiking, but Sammy doesn't really want to, so hey, that's fine by me. I have no problem chilling out. Probably sit around, play some board games, cook some dinner later. That's about it as far as updates. All right. Now let's get on with some breaking news. As you guys have known before, I've told on previous episodes that I usually bring the papers in the morning. So, unless something really interesting catches my eye, I don't ever get one, because most of it's just garbage. But, this interested me. Sorry, I just finished eating, so I got the hiccups. Now, this is University of Kentucky, which is local stuff, pretty close to me. Not next town over, but I guess technically it could be the next town over if you drive a certain direction. No, you'd still have to go through Nicholasville. Never mind. Close enough. It's still close. But it's about basically delivery robots. And I found this article, and I've covered robotics and stuff before. I can't recall the episode name. It was on my old channel, but I will find it and leave it at the end of this video in the credits so you can actually check it out. If you are an audio only listener, it's available on there too. That was one of the few videos that I put in audio form because it was long enough to be a podcast. It was way back in the day when I was a YouTuber only. So, but I mean, it was long enough to be a podcast episode, so I thought the audio listeners would have enjoyed it. So it is available on audio. If you are a YouTuber, or not a YouTuber, but a YouTube listener to the podcast, and you would like to listen to it on a different platform to save your phone battery, because I know a lot of people do that, we are available on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Anchor for audio only. But let's get into the article. So UK goes high-tech by using robots for food deliveries on campus. Food delivery at University of Kentucky just got more futuristic. Hang on just a second. Sorry. UK has started using robots created by Starship Technologies. Now, I've never really heard of that company. I don't know much about them. For delivering food across campus. UK is one of the 18 schools in the country using the robots, which rolled out on campus on Monday. My first thing is I am going to comment throughout the article because check out that episode that I just shouted out. Kind of give you an opinion on why this stuff freaks me out. Campuses throughout this whole pandemic have basically been putting students on lockdown, which lockdown, a lot of people don't know, is a prison term. Whenever prisons go on lockdowns. So they're already getting you used to that prison mentality. And now these students weren't allowed to leave their apartments or whatever on campus, blah, blah, blah. They could have food delivered, blah, blah, blah. And what that is it's getting us used to the whole Agenda 21 stuff of basically, because it started with the lockdowns for the virus, right? And now, as you can see, the next pandemic is already, they're already planning that is climate change. So they're already throwing it out there, Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, that they want us to start doing lockdowns for climate change. So the virus was just the starter of it. And now that they've seen that we comply to it all, it was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and now it's been, 2 years? We were being nice when we gave them 2 weeks. We honestly did nothing wrong. We were being nice. Oh, we could shut down everything for 2 weeks. And most people are so overworked that they're like, yeah, 2-week vacation, I can handle that. I'll be able to survive and pay my bills with 2 weeks off work. It'll be all right. We gave them an inch and they took a mile. Now, this is in a university, so right there, they brought in these robots, these Starship, I believe the company was. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never been to college, but I know that college kids, it's expensive, and they usually have part-time jobs. So it makes me wonder, why wouldn't it be better for that to be a human job, A college kid trying to make a couple extra bucks delivering door to door. Oh, wait, that would spread the virus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. And I've said this, that was kind of one thing that I got into about self-checkout machines in the video that I mentioned before, the older episode. It's job replacement. Slowly replacing humans with machine. But I digress. We'll get back into the article. Students and employees can order food from 7 campus locations, including Starbucks, Subway, and Auntie Anne's. Students love them, said David Haygood, U.S. launch specialist with Starship Technologies. I think they love the ability to wake up and not have to walk across campus for their morning coffee. They can lay in bed, they can place an order, and then in about 20 to 30 minutes, they'll get a delivery for their morning coffee or their snack or whatever they want. Now, I ain't gonna lie, there is those rare days that I don't want to get out of bed, but I actually enjoy getting fresh air and taking a walk and having a morning routine. That was one of the things that I struggled with, like back when I used to drink super heavy, was first thing out of bed, I'd go to the liquor store. And that was like, it became a morning routine, put on your clothes, comb your hair, go out, drink your coffee, go to the liquor store, get your shit, head back to the house. And I know that sounds bad, but that was one of the biggest things that I had to get over, was a morning routine and going out and about. I don't know, to me that seems kind of sad. Like, see, you can just have robots deliver it to you. Then you can still lay in bed. And it's like, I don't know. It just seems very lazy American to me. I don't know. That's kind of sad, I guess. Everything will be delivered in the future, though. They want us to stay on house arrest. Users place an order through Starship app and drop a pin to where they want items to be delivered. Food vendors on campus will load the order into the robot, which then drives to the user. UK has 30 robots on campus. 30 robots. So that's 30 jobs that could have been given to a human being. Huh. Those textbooks aren't cheap, you know. Once the robot arrives, they receive an alert and can unlock the robot through the app. Delivery time depends on where the items are ordered from and delivered to, Haygood said. Each robot can carry up to 20 pounds. It's a new technology, Haygood said. A lot of people are super excited about it. Kelly Thompson, by the way, that's actually, I wonder if they're related to Hunter Thompson, because Hunter Thompson's family is like a family in Louisville. His mom was a librarian in Louisville. He's from Louisville, so and there's I don't know, usually like for some crazy reason here in Kentucky, like everyone's related. There's actually Williams here, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you related to such and such?" And I'm like, "Nope, I'm a transplant, dude. I'm from Florida." You know? Oh, okay. Kelly Thompson, a graphic artist in the School of Human and Environmental Sciences, saw the robots on campus earlier this week and decided to place an order. I had seen a couple of robots roll around on campus, and I thought they were so cute, Thompson said. So cute until they malfunction and destroy you. Sorry. I've watched Terminator too many times, man. I decided to go ahead and order food because I was curious about how it works and how you got your food. She used the app to order a toasted sandwich and a drink from Subway. When her food arrived, the sandwich was still warm. Cup holders inside the robot kept her drink from spilling, she said. It was really convenient, and I definitely will use it again, Thompson said. Thompson said she could see herself ordering delivery a few times a month, especially when she is busy at work or when bad weather means she doesn't want to walk across campus. Now, I get that, like being too busy or bad weather. I mean, there's times, that I've it's been storming and shit, and I didn't want to go out and about and didn't have food in the house, when I was a single dad and all that, and where I was basically swapping the kid with my ex-wife, I didn't keep a lot of food in the house, so we would eat out a lot, or I'd order delivery, especially during bad weather and shit. I didn't want to go to Walmart and get whatever food I needed, I mean, I was broke because I was going through a divorce, I do understand there are those circumstances, I do play the devil's advocate, and I try to look at everything, both sides of the coin. I get it, the convenience of it. And that's the sad thing too, is like we could be, with all the technology that is out there, with all the money that these people, these quote unquote philanthropists, like Bill Gates and all these people like Klaus Schwab, we could actually turn this world into a utopia. But they don't want it to be a utopia. They want it to be a dystopia, So all these people that are getting their jobs replaced with robots and stuff, like, do you think that Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates is going to give them a job or an alternative job? No, because they want them reliant on them. Agenda 21, And just look into Agenda 21. It is so sick what they want this world to be. They say there's food shortages. Well, I find that kind of convenience that Kill Bates is like buying up all the farmland. Like, I wonder why there's food shortages. Wonder why there's reports of, food being stopped at piers, truckers not being allowed to pick up their orders, farmers being paid not to farm. I don't know. Y'all might want to look into that. Let's see. Oh, and you'll own nothing and love it, and you'll eat bugs. Okay? I'm not making this shit up. This is what they want. Thompson said she could see herself ordering delivery a few times a month. Blah blah blah. I already went through that. I ordered, I could keep working, and then once my food got there, I could take my lunch break, Thompson said. I didn't have to waste my... Excuse me, let me find the page. I didn't have to waste my lunch break standing in line. Oh, God forbid you'd have to stand in line for a little bit. Yeah, that'd be so terrible. Thompson said, there's been a lot of interest in the robots. And when her order was delivered this week, a lot of co-workers were curious about them. The robots operate at about 99% autonomously, Haygood said. They have sensors that allow them to monitor their surroundings and are tracked by GPS for safety. The robots can sense objects as close as an inch away and are programmed to stop if they get too close to a person or an object. They can also operate at night and in the rain or snow. See, like I said, convenience like that. Like, that would suck to be a delivery boy and have to go through the snow or the rain, you know. But, I don't know. I feel like during summertime or springtime, like, that's just like taking away from jobs, you know. We have been working with UK Dining on this project for over a year now, said Scott Henry, interim executive director of Gatton Student Center. It's great to see the robots delivering across campus. We are pleased to offer such great service to the students, faculty, and staff of UK. Now, I'll tell you a little quick story. We actually, like, when I started working where I work, it's a grocery store. I've let it slip out a couple times, but I'm really not supposed to do that. They could technically fire me for that shit. But I work third. I'm a night shift stalker, you know. And we always used to have this Mexican family come in. And it was like a husband, a wife, and their kids. And they would come in with a floor machine, you know, and they'd sweep all the floors, and then they'd come in, wash all the floors with the floor machine, and then it was like a three people team, you know. And then they would polish all the floors and stuff. And they've been replaced. You know, I've only been working there for a year, and then about like 3/4 through the year that I've worked there, we got this awesome floor machine. Basically, it's kind of like a little, like, almost like a little bumper car, but it's like high up, you know, like kind of like high up, like you're sitting on like a forklift. Basically, you drive it around. You only have to drive it around once, because like when you're driving it around, you're setting the path. And then once you're done driving it around, you hit start and it'll start washing, and basically it'll go through the exact same path that you went through. And I don't know, I was like, so this is the machine that, you know, the company bought, and basically it's putting this poor Mexican dude and his wife and, you know, the kids, obviously it's a home company, so they don't get paid, but they work for the family. They're working for food and dinner and a house and television. I mean, I used to help my parents, you know, when we were all working. I used to help lawn work, and I used to go to work with my dad doing construction, so I get it. You know, you got to do what you got to do. But it just, I don't know, it just kind of fucking sucked. Like, it just kind of made me feel bad. Like, well, shit, you know, like this dude, and we weren't the only I'm trying not to name the store that I work at, but we weren't the only store of that certain company in the area that these people cleaned. So it's like, I know if our store was doing it, so was the other stores. You see what I'm saying? Because it's corporate. And I don't know, it's just kind of discouraging. It's like, wow, there's another job, you know? I heard another channel too, Marfugal, kind of doing a recap on the previous episode I was speaking about. Like, where he lives over in Washington, he said, like, there is literally, he's walked into, like, grocery stores and there's one person there now. Not even like a couple of cash registers open. It's just one person. And it's like this gigantic tower. And I've seen these towers go up in the Walmarts near us. And it's one person in the entire store. And it's like in case of a malfunction or whatever. But everything is self-checkout. There's 0 cash registers open. And that's like day and night. And I don't know, it's just sad, man. Fucking mind-blowing and sad. And I remember, like, during this pandemic and stuff, you know, staying with the dude that I was staying with, I'd go to Walmart to pick up a couple groceries and stuff. And even during this time of, like, pandemic stuff, like, there would be, like, literally huge-ass lines. I'm talking, like, 20, 25 people in 1 or 2 or 3 lines. And I'm like, why are there not, there's all these cash registers and like there's only like 3 cashiers here? Like, it just, it's mind-boggling. And yet people need work and people need jobs, and we're just slowly being replaced, you know. And I find it crazy too. Like, I go through drive-throughs and stuff, and we've been like reopened for a while, you know. Yet everyone's still doing only drive-through, like fast food. No one's lobbies are open. And it makes 0 sense to me. Like, they want us in, like, house arrest state. Like, can't sit down and eat. Get your food and go back home. Stay home. Don't go out. Go out as little as possible. Think about the climate. Think about the virus. You know? Well, what about our jobs? Well, you could come and live over here in this Agenda 21 camp that we set up, or this Agenda 21 apartment complex that we set up, and then we'll pay you, but you'll own nothing and love it. You'll own nothing and like it. I don't know, it's just dystopian, man, and that's the sad thing. Like I said, man, it could be a utopia, but they're not going to let it become a utopia. They want it to be a dystopia. And it's just mind-boggling, discouraging, sad. But yeah, that's about all I gotta say on that, man. It's crazy. It's getting crazier and crazier. Figured I'd share that with you. We do have a little bit of time left. I have a little more time. If you guys want, you're welcome to stay for a paranormal story for today. And then we'll finish the episode off with that. If you got everything you needed out of the episode, I'm cool with that too. You don't have to stay tuned, but please do like and share and subscribe. And I'm going to take a smoke break, and we'll get on to the paranormal story of today, and then we'll finish off with that. Now, this is the Granny Harris story. My family always told ghost stories when I was a child back during the Great Depression years. That was in the 1930s. Times were hard then. We had very little money to buy things. After supper times, sometimes we'd sit around and tell those old scary stories until bedtime. Seems as if every person on my father's side of the family had seen strange lights or heard ghostly moans and groans. I can't count the times that I've heard my Aunt Marie tell about things she had seen or heard. And there's Uncle Fred, Daddy's half-brother. He wasn't afraid of anything. If anything, a haint would run from him. Our stories often told how dead family members came back as ghosts. It was always felt that the appearance of a spirit was meant to be a sign of something to come. That way, the family would know what to expect in the next few days. Maybe it would be the death of someone else in the family, or perhaps it was just a sign that they could expect good news of some sort. People believed in such things back then. They even listened and watched for a few things to happen. When I was a little boy, my great-grandmother was still alive. We all called her Granny. Granny was married to a man we called Pa Harris. He was Granny's second husband. Her first husband died back in 1892, while he was still a young man. I never knew him, but I do remember Pa Harris and all those old scary tales he told. Now there was a man who could tell about seeing and hearing all kinds of strange things. He believed in spirits, and his stories scared the daylights out of us as kids every time we went to go see him. Still, we always begged him to tell another one. Some of Pa's stories told about the Simpson graveyard, which was less than half a mile from Granny's house. He always claimed that ghostly lights had been seen in that old graveyard. It's basically orbs. And he'd heard weird noises too. The kind of moaning and groaning sounds the dead people make when their spirits cannot find rest. I often walked the 3 miles from my house to see Pa and Granny Harris. My grandmother and 2 aunts also lived there with them in that big old 2-story house. As a little fellow, I was always afraid to go near the Simpson graveyard, afraid a booger would get me. That's another word we used in talking about ghosts. There were only 2 roads I could walk along to get to Pa and Granny's house. Each one held out the chance of my running into haints. One way was a private road that passed in front of the old man Hacker Rich's house. It had been deserted for many years and was simply falling apart. Trouble was, the old Hacker Rich house was full of ghosts. Whether real or imagined to me, there were spirit beings hanging from every rafter in that house. Eyes peered at me from every window, or so I thought. The only other road that I could take ran right by the Simpson graveyard. I'm going to have to look that up, by the way, since I'm living in Kentucky and that's where this is at. That's the one I usually chose when I went alone to see Pa and Granny. I recall how scared I was of that old graveyard. It was bordered by tall cedar trees that could be seen from far away. There were many graves there. Some of them held the remains of people who died long before the Civil War. Cholera and typhoid fever had killed them. Other graves were those of Civil War soldiers who had been shot or hanged by their own neighbors. Little houses stood over some of the graves. Well, there you go. That's a good way to get a haunted house. People believed that these tiny buildings kept rainwater from reaching the bodies of the dead persons buried there. I didn't hang around the graveyard very long. I was sure that if I did, I would hear some sounds and cries made by these people when they died. Each time I got within sight of this historic old graveyard, I began to whistle. My pace quickened. By the time I was alongside the graveyard, I was always broke into a full run and ran the rest of the way. Neither Pa nor Granny or any of my other relatives ever asked why I was out of breath when I got to their house. Granny had been sick for some time when I turned 8 years old. Back then, people believed that when some part of the earth or sky acted in a strange manner, someone in the family or community was marked for death. I'll go ahead now and tell about the sudden appearance of 24 doves. See, these doves were a sign that Granny Harris would die. As an 8-year-old, I had gone with my parents, my brother, and sister to visit Granny. We often spent the night there, especially when Granny began to get weaker. This was in August. We had just finished eating supper, with lots of cornbread left over. All of a sudden, the gray doves flew onto the side of the porch and began pecking around as if they had come for a long visit. My 17-year-old Aunt Marie was Granny's youngest granddaughter. Aunt Marie took what was left of the cornbread and went out on the porch to feed the doves. I watched through the window as she walked in the midst of the birds and crumbled the bread on the porch. The doves seemed tame and never moved away from her. Aunt Marie actually pushed the doves aside with her feet several times so as not to step on them. She came back into the house and calmly said, "Granny will die tonight." None of the 8 or 10 people in the room asked her not to make such statements. The adults believed in such signs and watched for them, especially during periods of sickness. At 4 o'clock the next morning, my father came to the bed where my brother and I lay sleeping. He shook us gently and said, "Wake up, boys. Granny just died." Granny was a wonderful woman. Everybody loved her and really missed her. The old home place was never quite the same again. Oh, some things were the same, because Granny's pictures and things still hung on the walls, and her furniture and dishes were still in the house for years to come. We all think that her spirit visited the old place at times until the house was finally sold and torn down in the 1960s. I've heard my mother and father talk about hearing strange noises. They thought the noises were made by Granny. On one occasion, they stayed all night there, 2 or 3 years after Granny's death. Along about midnight or a little afterwards, something like the sound of pistol shots came out from the fireplace and woke them up. They couldn't figure out where the noises came from. Then they heard something like a whisper or a breeze gently moving across the floor. They were a little scared, but not too afraid, since they were together. Mama said that along about 1 o'clock, the sewing machine began sewing. She said she had heard the pedal moving just as clear as anything. She claimed they could have heard scissors cutting through cloth. Mama and Daddy asked, "What in the world is Marie doing sewing at this time of night?" They heard the sounds off and on all through the night. Then early the next morning, Aunt Marie came to Mama and Daddy's room and asked them, "Did you sleep okay last night?" "No," both of them answered her at the same time. "Why in the world did you need to sew all night on that sewing machine?" Dad asked her. Marie told them that she hadn't been sewing. Then she went on to say that she knew who it was. Marie said that at about 3 o'clock in the morning she couldn't stand the suspense any longer. She got up and went upstairs to the workroom. Granny was sitting there in front of the machine just working away. On her lap was the dress she had been making when she got sick. Marie told of other visits by Granny's spirit, but she was never afraid when she saw her. She claimed that Granny's visits were of a peaceful nature, just as she was when she was alive. But let me finish talking about Granny Harris by telling about her and the Union soldiers, and then how she came back to save my dad from sure death. Both of these things took place at the same spot. Granny was confronted by these Union soldiers when she was only 5 years old, which makes sense. Children are more in tune to that. It had been her job each afternoon to go into the pasture field to find the cows and drive them into the barn to be milked. On one summer day during Civil War times, Granny had gone to get the cows. She stopped to rest for a moment under a very large white oak tree. Some of the tree roots were above the ground, making a seat. Granny sat down on one of the big roots. She threw her head back and began to sing at the top of her voice. She thought that only the cows would hear her. Suddenly a bunch of Union soldiers stepped from behind the bushes. "Sing that song again, little girl," one of them ordered her. She was scared to death, but did sing the song for them. Then she watched as they left her standing under the big oak tree and headed out across the field to rob her family's smokehouse. Across the years, that old oak tree stood as a landmark. By 1945, it was dead and in its final stages of decay. That was the year that my dad bought a load of corn from a nearby field. From a nearby farmer, sorry. He was hauling it home in a horse-drawn wagon. The road on which he was traveling passed right by the big oak tree. As Daddy neared the big tree, he became somewhat uneasy. He even asked himself if it would be safe to travel under the big oak. It just might fall on him. As he got closer to the old tree, his horses began to act very strange. They came to a sudden stop, lunged first to the left and then to the right. One of the animals reared up to the point that both front feet were off the ground. Dad said that by that time he was scared to death. He didn't know what to do. Then he saw a likeness of Granny emerge from behind the tree. She walked across the road in front of him, smiled, and motioned him to stop by, holding up her hands. Then Granny's spirit slowly faded out of sight. Dad heard a loud cracking noises. Suddenly, the oak tree fell to the ground right across the road in front of his wagon. If Granny had not been there to warn him, Dad would have been killed that very instant. He's told me that story so many times, and I firmly believe it too.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.